Hello students, professor, this is Kenji Nakanishi and today I'm going to present my project on the API DUI project for my class or seminar in advanced software development. Today I have been completing my computer technology software development bachelor's Valencia College. This is going to be my final and then last one more class next semester to hopefully get the bachelor's degree. Instructor is Dr. Leong, and nice to meet you all. So first I wanna start reading the rubrics. So my intention is to follow the structure provided by the professor. And this time we start with the greeting protocol, what about your project, the language and tools, implementation, finding and results, technical challenges, success and disappointment. For the do-over, basically if I was able to do it again, what would happen differently, or why I would change it, or is everything was okay, or how can I make it better. Demonstration, which is this video itself, and then I will work the call, well, most important part, and then the thank you slide. Let's continue. So let's talk about my project. So basically, one of the assignments requirement was to do a 2 weeks collect API data for the API. I remember I was discussing that the first discussion was saying I'm going for Peru for 10 days, but then I remember it's not enough 10 days for 2 weeks of collection that which professor mentioned, but one of the students were mentioning to even consider it before and after the trip. Was an amazing contribution for one of my students, and I followed that lead. So I have the previous, during and after trip expenses now, which make more than 2 weeks. The project idea is to track every expenses done either in US dollar or soles, Peruvian soles, and then also do the categories like payment methods or the trip periods that I already mentioned. The reason of this project is because when you travel, you easily lose tracks of those small expenses, like the ones that are not recorded on credit card, because some countries they don't use credit card at all and they must be forced to use cash. Those expenses are not easy to track down, and I did have some challenge which I will mention about later. However, the project will also matter because it show how I behave, how I react towards money, and then it will give me more notion of what I my expensive behavior. And the current progress that I was successfully got the Google Sheet, the AppScript API, the integration with the Postman, I was able to make it work, the Google Colab using Python. Well, I response good that JSON was able to combine with everything and was able to generate the charts and visuals. So if we go from steps, I first record expenses, turn it into Google Sheet, and then I use the AppScript API the extension, and then I return the JSON, which I was able to use for the Python chart using Google Colab. Continue on. So the language and tool I use. So for language and tools, let's start with the Google Sheet, which is the store organized expense records. I am pretty familiar with the Excel sheet, and before I went to the trip, I was already creating this form, which is like I have an iPhone while I was using Peru, and then I was easier put the information. I was trying to do at least three times every week. So I was putting information as I get them, but to be honest, it was so difficult to put the small expenses, and then also I did all like 4 or 5 fields more. Then I realized they were not needed, so I was able to remove them at some point to make it more efficient. Then I use Google AppScript. This to create the API endpoint for JSON, meaning I was going to use a Google Cloud. However, it was asking me for critical information, so I figured out there was an extension AppScript, which it create. Well, just tell them that I want to create a JSON object and then row all the rows until it 12 anymore, and then you just will I'm going to deployment, manage deployment, and this one will return the endpoint. So basically, it will be able to put in Postman, and it will return 200 OK. So it will read, and then it will see in format of JSON. So this is also you can post, so it's easier access for us. Instead of going to the Excel, you can just post here, or you can also test which is working. So Google AppScript for that, Postman, and then the Google AppScript will be used to Google Colab. The Google Colab will retrieve the API, the JSON, then integrate the Python, pandas, and MATLAB to create charts. That's what I did. So I used Python in there, and then pandas and matplot library, these two, which create data frames and then visual aids for easier analysis for the charts and so on. So for the implementation, so how I start is that I start with the spreadsheet I mentioned. It was beginning kind of easy to just start with the expenses, just taking notes on my iPhone, or like on paper, because sometimes I was in dangerous places where I wasn't able to take out my phone. So I use my paper and pencil sometimes. But then when I was implementing it, I have some issues of the small expenses, and then also so many categories. I have to see, okay, is this a gift? Is this like travel? Is this like personal entertainment? So I created categories, drop down, so easier input, because imagine how many data I have inputted. It will be texting, typing. I figure it will be much easier if I just can have a drop down menu like this. Like you see, it's very easy, just select instead of typing. Okay, and then I connected then to Google Apps Script as mentioned, an extension. At the end I just use the endpoint JSON to use for work Python programming. This is one of the screenshots I post on the canvas for the class, which is my hard note take on the iPhone, then working on the Excel, and then providing for the updates. The finding and results. So this is the interesting part. So in order to have these charts, let's figure out how did it work. So you generate this endpoint, you copy the endpoint, and then you go to Google Colab, which is like a web browser Python similar, and then this is in Python, and then we call the API, the one that we deployed, and then basically we use pandas and also plotmat library. So we do the data frame, we select what we want to show, so we print the status, which is okay or no, the number of records, this is the column, just to show you all just a simple sketch of it. So this is just stylish formatting for that, and then it will print the 200 status, which is saying as postman. It will print the records, and it will put the number of columns. There are 12 columns. I mentioned is this in order of the same Excel, which is just printed out the first 10 results, which is, I think, put it right here. Yeah, this one. It had 10. So basically, it's just in order of the date. I just waiting out. I have been adding those. The second one, which is I think it's this one's really like it, the statistics. Let me go into statistics. This is the statistic one, my favorite. So basically for this one, I have been using the same analysis data frame. You just copy from the other one, you run off them, you just select what you want to show, but in that one I just want to calculate three things: the sum of all of them, the mean, and the median. Well, also the average, I think, and the max. So they're like the largest expense, and the summary table where it just summarizes all of them, the average, median, largest. And then just the result of how they're going to be print, just 2 decimals, and then a little stylish, and then print statement. So it's very fascinating how easy we can pull together the information with Python, because at this point I have all the information there to just deploy, use the URL, plug into it, and we'll calculate everything. So number of expenses 102, number of expenses, right? So that's the items I have added. Total expense, this is the sum of everything. The average expense, so this is 102 divided by this amount. So it's I have been paying for $22 in average for all the stuff. And the median, so the 102 divided by 51. So the 51 item was $5.9, but I believe it was super high at 22 because the largest expense was the flight ticket, which is more expensive. So I feel like the category goes super crazy expensive at some point, so it just rise the average expense value, and then that's why it's low. And the largest one I mentioned was the flight Peru trip. It's really interesting to analyze the data because otherwise, like, why I spend too much? Then I was so asking those questions. So why I spend too much goes to this, the category. So I did it both in charts to easy understand and also in table. So I work better with charts and organize on ascendant. So it's a bigger amount and smaller amount. I can say I spend a lot of money on travel, but still I went, I would say, decent amount of money on groceries. I treat my grandma buying a lot of groceries. I did entertain a lot, so I did spend because it was vacation. Some gift for friend and food was kind of expensive, but I have to say that transportation was okay. I did expect to have more expenses over here, and then others are just categorized, but it's just so interesting to understand how I was behaving. But one other student also give me the insight. Okay, so you should have an expected Peru trip category, and then the during before and after expense, and then understanding what were those unexpected uh, expenses. So that's what I did. Thank you, student, for this contribution. Um, I have $745 of unexpected expenses. And being then, I was playing with my band, so we rent equipment. I went for snack for the party, security, travel so task for the tags that you put on the luggage, first aid for my grandma so she can watch movies, movie ticket with my cousins, perfume, gift. So all those expenses really quickly added up. So the way I did this, I will show you in the Python. This is really interesting one. So this one, unexpected. Basically, for this one, well, let's planning order, which is expected as order going to be shown. We use the same analysis data frame, and then I want to show the percentage. So dividing times 100 will show the percentage, or divided by 0. Then expected spending. So this is the print statements, and then I will create a chart, and I will match the color of the Excel to, and then I will use the bar, planning tools values, same, kind of repetitive, yes, and then the text, I have also stylish the text, and then boom, that we have the chart. So it's really interesting insight to understand the expenses, and then also I put the head term for the calling, the day, description, category, and the amount, so I know what are those. It's really interesting understanding this. And the last one, which is the before, during, and after. It was interesting to do this because you don't sometimes think about after or before, you just think about during. But realizing the after and before, such as for before, let's see, yeah, for example, gift for friend, flight ticket to Peru, and after, oh, the taxi you took from the airport to home, or the coffee you took at the home, or like gift exchange cream for whatever you just don't consider sometimes is accurately at. So these final results were amazing. Python example I was able to summarize, and next year I am planning to travel to Japan, so I know that I have to get a 31% more for my unexpected budget, and then I'll assume this percentage will be similar to it I wanna do. I can use every time I travel, I guess. So let's now dive into technical challenges. I did have some technical challenges, being one of the caching track. So as mentioned, in Peru, not all of the places use credit cards, so you're forced to use cash, which means you will have to just calculate on your paper. Oh, this was about this, about this. So the way I did it was, I didn't track all the small expenses, well, some of them, but I will go out in the morning and say, oh, how much money I have. Okay, when I return at night at home, I have this much left over. So I will just subtract and I say, oh, this is how much approximately I spend. The JSON formatting, well, sometimes at the beginning the date were like super long format, so it was some coding, and then I reduced just to have the month, date, and year date format. The Python chart, so I have to learn. Well, I kind of use the same formatting for the colors, or like the axes, and then the bold fonts and stuff. So I just used the same, but it was really cool to learn the Python charts and the libraries I use. And then the Google Cloud project setup, which was asking me for billing and the credit card, which I was not willing to do, so I'm glad I found the extension. The data cleaning, I really took time to organize and to figure out what fields was not needed and then which one is relevant to the project. So even though I have some technical challenges, I believe while sharing those during the updates and the milestone and the professor feedback on recommending me what to use and how to use or do the presentations, it was really helpful for me. The successes, disappointment if I do over the project. Well, I would say the success is that I was able to complete the project and deploy the API. I was able to return the JSON dataset that we were going use to Postman and then use for the Python with Google Colab. I was able to create a Python chart successfully, so that's amazing news. I understand now my spending pattern. And then disappointment, I would say, to be honest, I couldn't record on the cash expenses, small cash expenses. So it's like an approximate. It's not precise, but I'm pretty sure it's not that bad. As mentioned, the spreadsheet fields at the beginning were like 15, 16, including like people, location, including like more fields that was necessary really for this project. So they were like, oh, why I was filling out this information at the beginning. And the data cleaning really took time. I didn't figure out that the drop down will be super helpful, so I just started doing that. It took less time after I did that because there were like 102 records. And then I have to do some adjustment with the currency data and charts, so I have to check the exchange rate. I have to check a different credit card company give me different credit card changes, so I did that what I put on the Excel sheet. So if I do over, I would definitely take with me a pen and paper if I go to Peru again. And in Japan, probably same phone will be fine, but this time I will create a shortcut so I don't have to go open Google Chrome, open history or open this. I would just go from shortcut and open faster, so it will be easier to enter data. And then I might reduce some more the fields. Probably location is not needed. Probably just I would just leave one amount. I would add US dollars. That's with the yen. I live in US right now, so that's what will be the main instead of Japan's yen. And I would record every cash transaction. This is very important. Easier to quickly add. And then these changes will definitely make more efficient project. Well, that was my project. Thank you very much and hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you, Professor, for the class. It was amazing. Glad I had a great moment, and I will be sharing this on my YouTube channel. Thank you.